Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And you saw this thumbnail, you saw this title, you know what this is about. But I have to talk about what has been one of the biggest clusterfucks in music this week, and that is DaBaby, who up until this point has been having a pretty good year, a pretty good past 12 months. I mean, his music's been doing well. He's been having a massive amount of memes out there, pushing his name and pushing his music in front of people. But it's all coming crashing down very quickly. And that's not to say that DaBaby's not going to have a career after this. Still, he is in the middle of a PR firestorm at the moment over his recent Rolling Loud performance. Now, some of the headlines to come out of this performance at first were kind of lighthearted. Silly stuff about this shoe being thrown at him, but it didn't seem to hurt the guy, and he had a funny comment about it. Then moving on from there, more headlines coming out of this performance got a bit more insane, with DaBaby bringing Tory Lanez out to perform with him. And I mean, if you know anything about Tory Lanez, he's currently on a lot of people's shit lists still because of the controversy surrounding him shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Allegedly. But DaBaby was bringing him out here in a show of like mockery, because I guess Megan Thee Stallion performed right before DaBaby did. So you're having Tory Lanez on right after Megan Thee Stallion. And not only that, but DaBaby brought Tory Lanez on in the middle of him performing 2 tracks that he has with Megan Thee Stallion. So he's like obviously trying to make a point here. He's bringing him on as a mockery to the artist that came on before him, the artist who was allegedly shot by the guy he's inviting on. So honestly, this was awful enough, and I feel like this should have been enough to start sinking DaBaby. But then finally the real firestorm started coming when this clip of DaBaby came out on stage, where he is like, and we'll link it down below, you could check it out for yourself, talking about people raising their cell phone lights in the air if they don't have AIDS and they're not dudes sucking dick in the parking lot, and the DJ is making a homophobic remark, or, you know, his hype man is making a homophobic remark on top of that as well. And this clip over here, I guess, is just like the tip of the iceberg of some of the other things that he said during the performance that have offended people in the LGBTQ community, and they came with guns blazing in response to this. Like Elton John made a Twitter post. There have been rap artists that have been disgusted by the comments, and there have been some rap artists that have come to DaBaby's defense. Historically, guys that don't really have a great track record when it comes to public statements and morality judgments. So this thing has become just like a whole orgy of shit, honestly, because if what DaBaby was saying on stage was just jokes, if it was just jokes, then the response should be to, like, let it go. If it's just a joke, then you didn't really mean it, and it's not important, and it's not significant, and it's easy to disavow and say that you didn't mean what you said, and say it was a mistake, or just say it was bad judgment on your part, and just say like there wasn't anything to it. But instead, we're defending our actions. We're defending our actions. So if you're defending your actions and you're standing your ground, it says to me that it's not a joke. It says to me that you actually kind of believe the things that you were saying on stage. Because if you didn't believe it, then it's not important. If you didn't believe it, then there's no reason to stand by it. If I say things I don't believe, I'm not going to stand by those things, whether that's something I said in jest or whether that's something I said at one point that I disagree with now. And that's how I would think every person would operate. But no, DaBaby is instead defending. DaBaby is instead standing his ground. DaBaby is instead feeling like he's above the comments and criticisms of other artists in the industry, even in his own field. He had Questlove on his ass, I guess, over Instagram, and his response to that whole thing was essentially like, yeah, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who Questlove is, I don't care, which is obviously always a good look when you are completely clueless as to who some of the most influential people are in the genre of music that you benefit off of. Yeah, that's always a great look. But as this little CNN blurb over here points out, this thing is extended even further into a mess on account of some of the people defending DaBaby here, because it's been T.I., for example, who in standing up for DaBaby, who has like pointed out Lil Nas X and brought up Lil Nas X in the conversation, saying, well, if Lil Nas X can openly be himself and say he likes the things that he likes and have the positions on homosexuality that he has, then DaBaby should be able to come out and say what he wants about homosexuality and so on and so forth. Which, like, newsflash, man, it's not the fucking same. I can't believe we have to come out and say this. Being openly gay is not the same fucking thing as being openly a bigot. No more than being openly, proudly black is the same thing as being openly a racist. Lil Nas X being open and honest about who he is and his lifestyle and his sexuality is not a detriment to and is not an insult to anybody else. If that were the case, then it would be so that heterosexuals who openly parade their sexuality in their art, in their music, all the fucking time is a detriment to every other sexuality, which it's not. So in response to this, I'd like to point out how preposterous that mentality is. And the other mentality that I'd like to point out is silly that I've been hearing getting repeated in the midst of all of this. It's just pointing out the history of homophobia in hip hop in a disingenuous way that either is meant to slander hip hop in general or meant to continue this cycle of bigotry, because it's what's always been, so on and so forth. One, it wasn't really that long ago when it was white America preventing like gay marriage from going forward. It wasn't really that long ago when it was white America that was totally down with Ronald Reagan allowing the AIDS epidemic to just ravage the LGBTQ community. And still to this day, battles are being fought over the silliness of not being able to allow people to go into the bathroom of their choice, of their gender identity. So please don't come in this convo acting like this issue is like localized to the black community or hip hop, because again, white America is still plenty fucking homophobic. And look, I know there are hip hop artists out there today, older heads who lived through a era of extreme homophobia, to look back at this Shade Room post over here, a Tribe Called Quest, who is listed in this Questlove post over here. They wrote a homophobic song. Now that track didn't make it on to the Low End Theory, but they really wanted to put it on there. And, you know, just recently with the passing of DMX, you know, as much of a legend as he was, his death caused a lot of people to go back into his catalog and, you know, dig up some of those tracks that had some supremely homophobic lyrics. And for a lot of people, that was cause for a moment of reflection, because the time where those lyrics was okay was not that deep in the past. So I point all this out to say I'm aware of this history of homophobia in rap, and I know there are legends in the genre today who either perpetuated it or just coexisted with it. And I know I'm just a white guy who you don't have to fucking listen to because I'm not really like directly a part of the culture. I get that too. But none of that is an excuse, because you have to close the door on bigotry at some point. Just because it's existed up until now in some way, shape, or form does not give it a pass to just continue existing unfettered, unchallenged, uninterrupted. That's not a justification. That's not a reason. Let's just close the fucking door and be done with it and stop this needless tension and hatred and negativity toward the LGBTQ community in the music and the art scene, because it's not necessary. It just causes hatred. It just causes division. So I don't know, man. I hope Zoomers are the last generation that like really puts up with this shit in any way, shape, or form. I hope this is the generation that just like puts this shit in the fucking dirt, because there's no reason for these kinds of comments to be celebrated, platformed, or supported. And as I said earlier, even before this, the Megan Thee Stallion shit was enough. I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my thoughts. Make sure to leave yours down in the comments. Let me know. You're the best. Love you. Mwah. Forever.